Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our self-care series. I'm Margaret Maddox. I'm the president of Chapter AR of P.E.O. We are so excited this evening to be presenting our third installment in our self-care series. Tonight, we're going to be doing Soul Collage with LeeAnn Foltz. LeeAnn is an incredible human. She brings so much to the table. She is a trained spiritual director, and she's also a trained Soul Collage facilitator. And she does a lot of other things too. I'm not sure what she's going to share with us tonight, so I'm just going to leave it up to her. But she's going to be teaching us a little bit about Soul Collage this evening as a way to do self-care. So without any further ado, let's welcome LeeAnn Foltz.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Appreciate that lovely introduction. I was just telling Margaret before we got started that I pretty much need to do self-care for myself tonight. So I really should be listening to somebody else or listening to myself. I've had kind of a crazy day and was telling Margaret that when you start dropping the ball, there are too many balls in the air and, maybe it's time to slow down a little bit. So I invite all of us tonight to take a moment through this wonderful practice of soul collage that I'm delighted to introduce to you, to take a moment to just breathe and to feel ourselves center into a calm place, even though that's not what I'm feeling at the moment. It is definitely what I'm going to try to be feeling. So I would love it if this were a 4-hour session and we could dive into all of the wonderful intricacies of soul collage. But my goal tonight really is just to give you a taste and just to whet your appetite for a little bit more. And I'm hopeful that if you do decide this is something that you're interested in doing, that there will be more opportunities for us to gather together, both virtually and down the road someday in person, so that we can share in this process and its benefits for self-care together. So we're just going to get a little taste. And I'd like to start tonight, first of all. I think creating space is really important, and space for us to calm ourselves, to get centered, to get grounded. And so I'd like to light a candle first just to get started. Well, or I could blow the candle out because I am just frazzled at the moment. But before it's all said and done, I will also be calm. So light, magic. And there is our candle. And so I invite all of us to look for where the light can bring us care tonight. And in order to do that and set the stage a little further, I'd like to share with you something from one of my favorite authors. His name is Mark Nepo, and he is the author of something called the Book of Awakening. It's just a daily guide with meditations. And something I heard this read actually a week ago at a Soul Collage Facilitator gathering. And as soon as my colleague read this, I thought, oh, yes, that is the thing that I need to start our session with. So, first of all, I know the title of this series was something about the heart whispering, come home. And so the beginning of this day's meditation said, until the heart becomes an inlet, it cannot be free. And Mark goes on to say, we are so achievement oriented that we often surge right by the true value of relating to what's before us, because we think that accomplishing things will complete us, when it is experiencing life that will. Yet if we can outlast the urge to judge everything we encounter, a miracle starts to surround us, in which painting, music, poetry, running water, flowers, wind through the trees, open vistas, all touch and draw out their counterpart that lives quietly within us. The 19th century poet Jared Manley Hopkins called this inner terrain inscape. Inscape. Let that word sink in. Inscape. And just as no landscape can flourish without sun and water, our inscape must be irrigated and drenched with many forms of life if we are to thrive. So when feeling stuck or disconnected from the miracle of life, as will happen to all of us, try to listen, see, feel, and just take it all in. Try to let the energies of life stir their counterparts within you. In order to be whole, suspend your criticism. And that's a very important part of SoulCollage. Suspend your criticism. For life is not a matter of taste, but of awakening. Not a matter of finding things pleasing or disturbing, but of finding things completing. Not a matter of liking or disliking, but of opening the geography of one's soul. And so that's what I invite you to tonight, is to open the geography of your soul through this process that I'm going to describe called SoulCollage. And while we will be doing collaging, and I hope that you have been able to prepare some images and some glue and some tape if that's what you need, whatever supplies you were able to gather together, we're going to use those to get to know a little bit more about ourselves. So I invite you to step into the world of SoulCollage. I think you're going to let Cheryl in there if you want to, Margaret, or I can admit her too. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Actually, I'm not going to do that yet because, well, yeah, I will. I'm going to be indecisive today. Let me do this. We were practicing this before, so. Okay, so can everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah.
All right, so tonight's program is Hearing Your Heart Whisper Come Home. And where we're going to hear your heart whisper is through the practice of SoulCollage and through the practice of looking at images and finding a way to have a dialogue and conversation with your soul. And as I was preparing for this, I thought about that old, the Heart and Soul song on the piano. I guess that's Chopsticks. It was playing in my head. And so this made me think about your heart and your soul sort of being uniquely one and the same and connected. And so that's why the title, Hearing Your Heart Whisper Come Home. Come home to your soul. Come home to an invitation to find what brings you some self-care. Okay. So was everybody able to at least get maybe one primary image from gathering some images? And this is collaborative. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to. So what we're going to talk about first is, who are you? I bet you all think you know who you are, but I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself to the group tonight. And most of us know each other, but there's several of us who don't. And so this is a fun, creative way of getting to know the other women who are here with us tonight. And I'm going to model what it is that we're going to do. And then I'm going to ask Margaret to go first as a second guinea pig. And I think you'll kind of catch wind of what we're doing here, okay? So you do need to unmute yourselves. This is participatory. But I want you to find the thing that I described in my email to you as a primary image. So find one of your images and take a minute just to look at the image and just kind of intuitively figure out what does this image speak to you about? If you were to answer the question, I am one who, using this image, how would you do that? What would you say? And it doesn't have to be long or fancy, but just think for a minute about one of your images, and I'll let you think about it for just a second. I am one who, and what does this image tell you about who you are? And maybe if you've kind of found an image and can just give me a thumbs up when you feel like you're go, we'll start.
LeeAnn, can you give us a clue on how we do the thumbs up?
Just like that. Just to actually tell it good.
Okay. I thought it was a technology tool here on Zoom.
Well, I think there is a technology part of it, but if people are ready, and I know a couple of people just joined us. So if you had a chance to gather some images, as I asked you in the email, just grab one, even if it's just randomly, just pick one, hold it up to yourself, take a look at it, and just think, if I had to answer the question, I am one who, how would I do that? And I'm going to show you an example when everybody looks like they've had kind of an opportunity to figure that out. And if you're just joining, just kind of follow along. I think you'll catch on. So I'm going to start. And you know what? If I'm sharing my screen, can you guys still see my image, or do I need to stop sharing my screen, Margaret?
I would
Can still
recommend you
see you.
stop sharing the screen so that we can see each other.
Each other? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
All right. So there's going to be a lot of technology going back and forth between screen sharing and not screen sharing. So.
It's all good. It's all good.
All right. So I am holding up my image, if everyone can see that. And rather than describing anything about, this is a giraffe and these are trees, here's what I want you to do. I am one who sticks my neck out for my kids. That's it. So I'm going to ask Margaret to introduce herself.
All right, I'll go next. Here's my image. Not sure if you can see it. I am one who digs down deep and enjoys the night.
Thank you. Is anybody else brave to go next? Okay, Sue.
Okay, LeeAnn,
Oh, I think Linda's going to.
we can do this here. See if you can see my image.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it has a saying at the bottom. It says, strategic breathing, how to make every breath count. And it was the first thing I picked up on the front of a magazine. And so I would say, I am one who tries to have a plan, but also tries to make every breath count.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nice.
Love it.
Sue, I think you were next.
Susan.
Nope.
She might be frozen, I think.
Oh,
So we'll come back.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Sue. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I have a little picture, but it's a picture of a lake, and I will say that I am one who has finally discovered how to relax.
Mm. Yay!
Woo!
Thank you. Thank you.
And Sue's unfrozen now if she'd like to
Okay, okay. I have this little picture of a cat. And I'm one that's always willing to learn and to learn truth and honesty and how to be good to people.
go. Woo! Good one.
All
Thank
right. Who's next?
Okay. Okay, let me see. There we go. So I've got this plate of pasta that's all mixed up, and I am one who whose life is really kind of a jumble, but it tastes pretty good.
Aw, love it.
Thank you. All right, Rhonda, you look like you're dying to go next.
I'm dying to get now. I'm really excited that Deb is here. Oh my gosh.
Hi, Rhonda.
We know each other in another world too. This is really
Yeah.
exciting. Okay, so here's my picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I am one who loves creation in the outdoors, but especially water because it's continually moving.
Thanks.
And I like to keep moving and learning new things.
Awesome.
Whoop, whoop.
All right. Who's next?
I'll go next.
Okay, Anne.
So this is my image. I am one who needs space. I'm a little claustrophobic and I don't like clingy relationships, but I like to be close to people. I need space to myself sometimes. And I also like to be near water. I like to know there's open space out there and I can see the water.
Awesome. Thank you. Who's next?
I'll go next.
Thank you, Lisa.
I don't know if you'll be able to, can you see my picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am one normally travels straight down the road, but over the past couple of years, I've, and especially with some help from now, learned it's safe to get off the road and go into the trees and, just enjoy nature and, be able to think more clearly.
Whoop, whoop.
Great,
Nice.
great.
All right, Cheryl.
Okay.
Janet.
Okay. No, that's worse. Okay. I don't know if I can do this.
Hold it back just a little bit.
Okay, you see that?
Yes.
Can you see
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay. I am one who would like to see things from the clouds so I can get the whole view. And I want to see everything from all perspectives. So, anyway.
Awesome.
Love it.
And I want to fly. I want my superpower to fly.
Awesome. All right, Janet, do you want to take a turn?
Let me see.
You can see that.
Good.
For some reason, I'm not,
We see it.
there we go. I'm one that is looking for connections to join a flock, to be connected to others with similar.
Aw. I love that.
Nice, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, thank you all. You're very brave, and I can see you're going to be good at this because you have caught right on. I think this is all going to make great sense to all of you. So thank you for that wonderful introduction and sharing of a little bit of your heart and soul. So let me see if I can go back to my screen without too much trouble here sharing. Okay, so I hope what you have all discovered through that is that SoulCollage is a creative, intuitive, inspiring process that uses images to help you discover more about yourself just through that small kind of conversation. And I'm going to give you some details, but I just have to say at the outset that it cannot be underestimated how valuable and powerful and how integral to this process it is that you have a dialogue with your images, that you allow your images to speak to and from your soul. So that's a really important part of the process. So what I'd like to do now is just kind of give you a very quick, rough, fast overview of sort of the principles of SoulCollage and kind of where it came from and what it is, and walk through just sort of the steps of the process of creating a card. And then I'm going to let you do that. So we'll take some time to sort of just have a little history, a little bit of learning, spend some time actually using these images that you've brought tonight. And then at the very end, anyone who wants to share, what comes from this process, I invite you to do that. No, it is always optional, that this is a sacred confidential space. And if you want to share, we would love that. If you don't feel comfortable sharing, that is fine too, because sometimes, very surprisingly, you will discover that images can be very touching to your soul. They can bring forth something that's very tender, or maybe even startling or surprising. So just be prepared to let whatever it is that happen, because it's a valuable and important part of self-care. So what is SoulCollage? By now you've figured out that it's just a playful way to explore and honor the different aspects of ourself. We all are made up of so many facets, and the woman who I will show you a picture of in a moment, who created this process, called us being a part of Indra's net, that we are all just fractals and pieces and parts of this amazing, vast network of being. And getting to understand ourselves helps us understand the world in a greater way. So it's just a simple process, literally, of cutting and pasting. It's like going back to kindergarten and just cutting and pasting and gluing and not being critical or afraid or second guessing what you're doing. It really is just an intuitive process that gives our inner wisdom an opportunity to come forth without the mind saying, no, don't do that. No, don't do this, you know. So all of the facets of our personalities have some sort of gift, whether it's challenging or, you know, positive, to help bring some healing and some self-care to us. If you get involved in SoulCollage in any depth, you're invited to create what's called a deck of SoulCollage cards. And as you can see, I have some examples of my SoulCollage cards, which you'll see some pictures of. But they really do sort of become like an oversized deck of cards that just hold all the wisdom from your own soul. So, where did SoulCollage come from? It was developed by a woman named Sina Frost, and she had kind of an interesting tripartite life. She was very interested in spirituality. She was actually a minister. She had a master's in divinity. She was a very, very creative soul, and she also was a Jungian analyst. So she had a background in psychology, as well as, you know, just artistic, creative thinking, intuitive thinking. And from those interests of her professionally, she became very attached to this notion of the 3 I's, and that is the power of images, intuition, and imagination when they are combined in concert together. And so over some time, just working with a variety of different environments, both, you know, her psychological clients and some of her spiritual clients, she discovered that images really spoke to people. And so she developed this process called SoulCollage. And it's very important to know what SoulCollage is not. It is not therapy, despite the fact that her background is very much, you know, in the psychological realm. It is not therapy, but it is very therapeutic. It is not a religion, even though she had that vast spiritual dimension to herself. It is not a religion, nor is it, in woo-woo words, some kind of predictor of the future. It really is just an opportunity to speak in a different language, to speak through the language of images in your soul and not with words. And most importantly, it is not dependent on anybody else for interpretation or input. This is all about you. The cards speak about your own soul, your own feelings about whatever it is that you see. And they are not cards, although we share them together and we witness each other in the process of what's being uncovered. It is nobody else's image or message or card. It's only yours. So this is all you. And to that end, I will offer that one real important part of the SoulCollage process is that no one else comments on anybody else's card. It's not beautiful, it's not ugly, it's not fantastic, it's not awesome, it's not divine. It may be all those things, but because it is such a uniquely personal experience, we honor whatever someone needs to feel about that card and are here again, as I said, just to be a witness to that discovery. And not even though, you know, it feels kind to say something's beautiful, that's a judgment in and of itself, just as much as saying it's not beautiful is a judgment in and of itself. So we really try to put our inner critic and any kind of mental thought process around all of this to the side and honor and allow just this intuitive speaking that wants to come through interaction with the images. This happens to be one of my cards called Lighting a New Path. Sometimes the titles mean something to me, and sometimes the images invite just completely unexpected kinds of messages as well. So what makes the process SoulCollage? There are actual principles that, as a facilitator, we were trained on that really do need to be imparted as a part of understanding the actual process if you are going to call it SoulCollage. And in order to call it SoulCollage, these elements need to be a part of the practice. And just very generally, again, it uses images, intuition, and imagination. When we're creating cards or making cards, there really is only one energy or one sort of feeling or impression or intention per card. The goal is not to just jam every image you've ever seen, you know, onto something. It really is to focus on and isolate one kind of facet of yourself that might need to be explored. And because it's intuitive, you likely may not even know what that is. There's a concept, I think I just mentioned it a moment ago, about how important the one and the many are. So we are one, and there are many parts of us as an individual that make us up, many facets. So that's part of the one and the many. And then there's also the part of us being one of the many, because we are all here together and we are all part of this vast network. So the images, while they are personal, there is some collective sharing in the creation of the cards. And so while I may not comment on your card, I may be profoundly impacted by a card just because there is a universal feeling or energy that might, be imparted from the cards that we share and witness together. Imbalances. I'm learning some new things about wording these days, and how to represent the idea that not everything about us is necessarily, I really don't like to use the word negative or positive, but there are aspects of our personality that we're still working on, or aspects of our being that we are still maybe not fully in touch with, or don't understand, or still have, some desire to understand better. And so images might bring forth some sort of understanding about that. And that in and of itself also has value. So the goal is not necessarily, to work with these images to only deal with things that we are comfortable with. Sometimes there will be things that aren't comfortable, that are part of healing and growth as well. So you witnessed just a minute ago, or experienced, the I am one who exercise, and that is such an important part of this. Really dialoguing with your card and asking it questions, and coming to have a relationship with the images and what they represent about you. Again, as I said before, everybody reads the cards only for themselves, not for other people. Another important part, at least for Sina's process, is that the cards they're personal, they're uniquely yours. And so there's no copying of them, or selling them, or bartering them, or trading them, or, sharing them. And as a part of that, it's really important. We use other people's images in these cards, artists, and when you get images from magazines, some of those images belong to someone else or were created by someone else. And so we honor that people have created these images for us to use by not selling them, or bartering, or trading, or participating in anything that might have some sort of financial gain. And again, as I said before, they're for personal use only. So those are the general principles. And just as an illustration of what I mean by one energy per card, here are two of my cards. And this one I call my work mom card. And although it is very cluttered, the energy here was really about the dividedness I felt as a young mother when I was working in a professional capacity, and there was a real struggle between juggling, me and my job and my kids. And so, there's some images obviously of Tina Fey there. That's not me, but she represents for me sort of that, just the chaos that existed in my work world. And I went back to school when my kids were young as well. And so just that frenetic sort of feeling about being a mom who works. And then there are pictures. Obviously, you can put pictures of yourself if you want to on your card. So that's me and my kids when they were little. And then, so the energy there is just that, the freneticism of the working mom. And the next card is called my Mystic Traveler card. And the energy here is just that part of me that yearns to go beyond, that part of me that yearns to travel to distant places in my spirit and in my soul. So that's what I mean by one energy per card. There are also two types of cards. There are intentional cards, and there are obviously mostly intuitive cards. But an intuitive card is a card that you just grab a bunch of images and you put them on a piece of paper, and then all of a sudden they say something. So the intuitive card for me is my mother and child reunion. And as I put all those images together, I had no idea really where that was going, but then had some really interesting messages about just mothering and my own childhood and being mothered and mothering my own children. And so that was an intuitive card that had some meaning after I dialogued with it. An intentional card is one where you really are on purpose making the card. And in the card on the left, I think it's the left of my screen, which is called Ho'oponopono Love. This is a card that I made specifically for my own spiritual director. And I wanted to honor what she has brought to me in our experience and direction together and soul companioning together. And so, although this is not her, this is an image that the minute I saw it, it was like, oh my gosh, that is the essence of my spiritual director. And so, some of the gifts that she has brought me have centered around a Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono. And so the palm trees sort of remind me, you know, of that practice and of her love and of her care. So that was a very intentional card that I made for a very specific purpose and a very specific person. And I won't go into very much detail, but I promise that if this is of interest to you, let's do another workshop in more depth someday. But Stina discovered that as they were creating all these cards, they sort of fell into categories or fell into areas of commonality. And so she devised what she calls suits, because obviously it's like based on a deck. So, and I don't know why they all had to be C's, but there's a committee suit, a community suit, a companion suit, and a council suit. And then there are these cards outside of all of that that are called transpersonal cards that don't talk, but just sort of witness and hold kind of soul essence or spiritual kind of energy with them. So if you're interested, we can dive in sometime about what all these are. But in general, the community suit honors, like my friend Cindy, honors those people, animals, pets, places that are dear to you and are part of your local story, that are the people and, you know, presences around you. The committee suit is really all the facets of you. It is all of, you know, it's your warrior, it's your spirit person, it's your mom, it's your critic, it's your happy child. It's all those, you know, multiple parts of you that make you up, again, in your local personal story. And you'll see in this diagram over here that I'm talking about those things that are sort of on the horizontal axis there. And then there are these vertical axis energies that interact with you, who are the companions and the councils. And the council suits are more larger energies. And if archetype is a word that you're familiar with, archetypal meaning collective energies, energies that, you know, that we all experience. And so those suits kind of connect you a little bit more to the larger story. The companions are a very specific kind of suit that just deals with energetic feelings that you might have. And she particularly associated that energy with animals. And so the companion suits are energetic connections that you feel in the world. And again, they're a part of that larger story. So in that all, the horizontal and the vertical axis, all of that is surrounded by whatever you call source, whether that's, you know, God, Brahman, Yahweh, whatever name you have for some divine connection. All of these energies are encompassed by that dynamic. So whole workshops and weekend retreats are done on just one individual suit at a time. So there's a lot of depth that can be gone into, and a lot of really gold that can be mined from just sort of understanding a little bit about all of the different suits. And just as by way of an example, I just wanted to share with you sort of what that energy might look like on some cards. The card with the women dancing is my wild woman card. And it is a committee card that represents that nature, that part of me that just wants to get with her sisters and dance and sing and just be as wild as you possibly can. The card at the bottom here with the jaguar on it. The jaguar is an animal that I feel some affinity to. And this card in particular honors just the energy of power and strength and balance, both in feminine and masculine kind of power. So this is a really special card to me. The card above that is one of my community cards that represents a facet of my spiritual life. And it's called the Universal Christ because in my belief system, the Christ energy and the Mary Magdalene energy represent a balanced spirituality. And so that card is what those energies or personalities in my community mean to me. And then the last one there is called the Artist Muse. And it's that archetypal or council energy that I was talking about that represents just that creative nature that's a part of all of us, that creative drive and desire that we all have, whether we think we're artistic or not. That energy is just a very large energy. And so that card represents that for me. So enough about my cards. Let's get down to the nitty gritty of you guys making some cards. And I've seen some of you cutting and looking at your cards. I appreciate that. So we're just going to step through really quick the process. And that is that first you just choose a primary image. You randomly, intuitively just go through your images and say, hey, yeah, I love this. I don't know why I love it. And sometimes maybe you don't love it. Maybe it really kind of, pushes you away, but there's something that grabs you about the image that just is like, I gotta work with this. I gotta talk to this. So don't overthink it. You just choose it and you cut it out. And that was from those primary images that I spoke about earlier. The second part is just to audition that image on some backgrounds. So you just want to kind of like take those background images and kind of lay them, lay that one image sort of on a bunch of different ones. And just when it feels like it intuitively fits, then that's the pairing that you probably want to go with. The third part is when you're happy with that pairing, then you glue your background down, glue your primary image down. And I actually have a roller, I'll catch myself on fire, which I find very helpful. It's called a brayer for getting bubbles out, but you can use a credit card or any kind of sharp, hard edge, hard ruler or something could sort of smooth out the edges on your card. And then finally, sometimes an image just isn't complete until you add just that extra little piece that just sort of like brings it all together. And you may not even know why, but just some pairing, needs to happen with maybe another little random miscellaneous image. So that's step 4. And then finally, as I said before, reading the card by asking a series of questions is really an important part of this process. And I'm going to share with you sort of some standard questions that Sina suggested that you ask, but then I'm going to invite you tonight for us to actually look at our cards after they're created and answer the question, answer a specific question that I'll share with you in just a moment. So that's the process. Does that all make sense to everybody? I'm just doing a quick time check. I know we've used a lot of time already, but why don't you take about 10 minutes and just go through this process. And again, when you're at the point where you think you've got something you're happy with, just give a little high sign, and then we'll move to just working with answering the question. So does anybody have any questions? Or
I was going to say, LeeAnn, if people have questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself and share, but also there's a chat feature. So if you're comfortable with that, you can type your question in there and we'll be looking at those too.
And I will just it's 7:39, 7:40. So let's just take about 10 minutes. And if you don't completely get it finished, you can certainly continue on, with this after we close tonight. But take a few minutes and just kind of work in your own realm there. Got about 4 more minutes just to keep you on track with where you're at. About 2 more minutes. And even if you're not getting close to being finished, you can keep working while we move on to the next slide in just a moment. It's so quiet with all of you on mute. How's everybody doing?
Okay.
Good, good. Well, I think we have like half a minute left.
I should have tested my glue stick ahead of time, LeeAnn. I had to go to stapler.
Oh no, that's okay. I like the creative ingenuity.
What kind of adhesive do you usually use, LeeAnn?
I use Elmer's glue sticks.
Nice.
There are all kinds of fancy glue sticks out there in the world, but I really find that the Elmer's glue, or like the Staples brand, or just whatever the big fat glue sticks like that are, I go through a lot of them. And I actually, just to share with you techniques and tips while you're finishing up there, I like X-Acto knives. So I actually cut my images out with X-Acto knives on a plastic board. And I also like little teeny tiny scissors for doing like really detailed cutting for lots of images. But some people really just love scissors. So, and I will say that, the benefit of SoulCollage aside, just the cutting of images I find very therapeutic. I think just it's a meditative process to just cut and cut and cut. And I won't tell you how many curated images I have sitting in my little office here, because I could make cards for days because I like cutting out images. All right.
I like drawing.
Yeah.
Cutting.
Oh. So if we were going to go into sort of a full blown, I know everybody's sort of finishing up a little bit, but it's right at the 10 minutes. The next part normally in the process would be to break into groups, and three of us together would fill the roles called scribe, witness, and reader. And so one person would sort of look at their card. They would give it a name if they felt like they wanted to give it a name and date it. And then the questions that they would ask are the ones that you see on the screen right now. You would ask, who are you? And the answer is, I am one who. And then you might say, what do you have to tell me? And the card would say, I tell you, I give you. What do you want from me? I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And then, is there anything else you want to tell me? And so that's generally the dialogue that happens. And one person writes down while the person is reading, and one person listens while the person is sort of answering these questions. And that's the witnessing and the being a part of the discovery. But tonight, what I would like and you guys can have a copy of this if you want to remember that process, but you can also just ask specific questions of your card and the images. And so tonight, I'd like you to ask, what does your card have to tell you about offering more self-care to yourself? And just don't overthink it. Just answer that question. And I'll give you 3 or 4 minutes to just kind of ponder. And you can certainly do some more pondering after we finish tonight. But just sit now with whatever you've created and journal about that question. So maybe take just a minute more to finish the thought you might be having right now. I know we're getting very close to the end of the top of the hour here. I told you doing it in an hour was a challenge, but we're going to make it happen. So has everybody had a chance to at least have some thought, some revelation? So is there anyone who would like to share? We probably don't have time for everybody to, but is there anybody who would like to just maybe even just give 1 or 2 words about anything that might have come up for you as a part of this process? I would love to hear your feedback.
Stephanie, go ahead.
I'll share, LeeAnn.
Oh, good. You weren't on the screen, so I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I've got this that I put all of my mostly landscapes and things together. And I think that probably I love my egg chair up here, except I don't really have one. I have a rocking chair instead, which is almost as good. But I think when we started this out, what I felt inside of me was that I wanted to go through the magazine. I found the great scenery thing. And after a year of COVID and being home all the time, I found that I really do want to be retired. I really do want to have the time to sit on the deck and to not do the things that I used to do where I was running to meetings constantly all day long. And so tonight, the 2 things that I have on here says a calming influence and peace of mind. And that's what I got from my card tonight.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else feel like sharing? Rhonda, and then Cheryl after that.
Okay, so I really wasn't sure where I was going when I was cutting my images out, other than I did use the background of the image I shared earlier, because I do like creation in water. I do my best thinking in and around water. And so I don't know if you can see this, but I have this little guy sitting on the end of a dock here by the water. And then kind of this just silhouette there of a woman. She's holding a little guy walking on a very high bridge. That's one of the things. I'm very afraid of heights, but I don't know, some of you know, I know Margaret knows I've hit a really rough time the last few weeks and really not sure I'm where I'm supposed to be career-wise. And so this is speaking to me that I really do need to take some time and ponder. I need to be myself. I need to not hide in the shadows. And some things are going to be scary, like that high bridge, but I got to get out of my comfort zone and follow my heart. That's where I am.
Thank you. Cheryl, I think you wanted to share.
Okay, so I use my image, but I put a big picture of healthy food, like a really good Thai recipe, and then I put a dog picture and a clock. So in Cheryl's brain, I have an ADHD brain. I've really come to embrace that. Okay, so where do I go with this? So
I knew I liked
you clued me in, LeeAnn, when you said, how does it relate to self-care? And I thought, okay, so, I do like to get with people and share perspectives and ideas and listen. And I like to look at things from a lot of perspectives and ponder when people talk. That being said, I spend a lot of time, and that was really hard for me at COVID. I really like to socialize over food, because that brings me connection and to talk over ideas. And that's been really hard because I haven't done a lot of that. I've probably done more than most because I needed it to survive. But there's always been an element of time that I'll give my time to other people. I won't give my time to myself. And that means, okay, so just an example of that is I was down in Covington helping to feed the homeless, right? And I haven't had time to really make dinner or eat dinner. So am I actually going to take 20 or 25 minutes to make myself something healthy? Or am I just going to grab the easy thing to throw in the air fryer? And really it's about giving so much people a lot of my time, because I really like people, but do I give myself the luxury of my own time to take care of myself? And that really started, some of you know that in our Facebook group, I started drinking smoothies, really healthy things. I really changed my eating in the morning, and that's just, you know, and in my brain, my time is always like, oh, I don't have time for that. I want to reach out with this person. I don't, you know, it's a time issue. And I don't know why I'm so fixated on time. I don't have enough time to do everything, but it's probably just a brain thing, you know. So anyway, that's my card. Does it make any sense to anybody? It doesn't really matter. I don't care. But that's where my brain's at.
It's perfect for you. Thank you, Cheryl. Anybody else? I'm mindful of time, but if you are okay to stay a few minutes and still want to share, I would love to hear other thoughts or epiphanies.
Let's do this, LeeAnn. I just want to, I'm going to leave this open for sharing, but just to be mindful of the hour, if you do need to go, no problem. I just want to say thank you for coming, and also let you know that in 2 weeks, Rhonda Hannigan is going to be giving us a program on night yoga. And I'm so excited about this program. I hope that you'll attend. She's going to give us some very simple yoga poses and things you can do to help yourself sleep better. And how many of us, you know, we all need good sleep. So I hope you'll come back in 2 weeks for Rhonda to do that. But I just want to do that little commercial. Thank you so much for coming. And let's continue sharing. If you can stay, if you can't, thank you so much for coming.
And let me just add one last word. My last screen, I don't have it shared anymore, but if you want more information about SoulCollage, I have a website. It's awakewisdomenergy.com. And if you're interested in checking out, I've got some other information about SoulCollage out there on my site, and would love you to check out my site just to check it out. So thanks, y'all. Thank you all for being here tonight and participating. So.